Hello, Fred.
Hello, Kristin. How are you today on Friday?
I'm doing well. These weeks are flying by.
Yeah, time has been such an interesting experience lately. Whether things are just happening so fast or so slow, there's just not a consistency to it the way it used to feel, I guess would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like some days do drag a little bit. And then when I reflect back on the weeks, it's like they're gone in a day or two. So,
Yeah.
and that feeds into what we are going to talk about today, which is timelines, because I feel not only is time from a 3D or a linear perspective feeling weird, I'm getting a sense that these timelines that relate almost to the reincarnation process of
Mhm.
us living different lives. It's a knowing that these reincarnations are really happening in this life. And as we see them more from the eagle's perspective, they're all there, and it's not like it was 100 years in this lifetime, 100. It's like we make decisions and sometimes we jump timelines and then we've got to acclimate and merge a little bit to kind of come back to a normal state. It's so hard to even talk about, but I
It's
know you get
hard.
what I mean.
No, absolutely. It's hard for the brain to understand that time doesn't exist the way that we've been told, which is the whole past, present, future concept of what time is. And what's fascinating is they've already discovered this through quantum is that time does not exist. Outside of these physical bodies from that soul energy, there is no time. And to me, the purpose of why time is here on Earth allows our brain to understand what we've done in the past to maybe be able to choose something different in the present that would then allow us to create and manifest something different in the future. And the brain needs to understand that time sequence, because if we woke up one day and we're 5, next day we wake up, we're 8, next day we're 4, the brain's not going to be able to fully have a comprehension. And it's going to be more fight or flight. And then we're just really reacting to everything that's going on. So the whole concept of time is fascinating to me. It really, truly is.
And it makes perfect sense because that's how I view the ascension process. We
Mhm.
want the veil to be lifted completely. We want to know everything all at once. Yet, if that happened, our bodies were literally like short circuit. Like we couldn't handle all the
No, we'd explode.
gosh, we would just be like, what is true? What? We couldn't function in that world. So it really does make sense that we've gotten to go this linear path, but now it's like you stop living the linear path
Hmm.
and you feel all alone because you're not you don't feel right talking to your neighbor about like what it feels like to be in your body on any given day, but it's just a knowing. It's a knowing that we have different timelines, and so our choices that we make on any given day can take us on a different path. And it really does ground us in that consciousness, being aware, the self-awareness to use discernment,
Hmm.
make these decisions for your highest good.
Absolutely. And it allows us each day, each moment, to look at something a little bit differently and maybe be able to choose something that we haven't chosen before. That's usually advice I get. Like sometimes some clients will be like, "Oh my God, everything in my life is just going horribly, and I don't know what to do." And I'm like, the easiest thing to do is do the opposite of everything you've ever chosen.
Really, when you think about it, that's how you change.
It's the only way from a neurological perspective. Think about a thought process and a choice as like a dirt pathway or a neural pathway. So the more that we choose the same thing, the more that neural pathway becomes fortified. Just like you drive on a dirt road, the ruts get deeper. So when I tell people just do the opposite, it will literally create a whole new neural pathway that's never been there before. So the more different choices that we can choose to give our brain a different experience and understand a different perspective, it really expands the capacity of what our brain has and its ability to be able to do things that we can't even fathom yet.
Yeah, it's like the conditioning. Those pathways get really ingrained, and it's like you're in a forest. I always use that example. You know the trails that everyone's taking,
Yeah.
but the other trails really can't be programmed, rewired unless you start taking those trails every day.
Yep.
And then it becomes natural to you.
Hmm.
So it's makes sense.
And that's a lot of times like what we do with the healing, like at least from what I've seen with my perception is that whenever you're working with a person and you're like recreating an unconscious program for them, you're literally putting in a different program that allows them to make a different choice that their brain didn't know existed. But we still have that, I'm going to say, illusion of free will, because if time doesn't exist, everything is predetermined. And that's where it gets a little fuzzy, as to where and how that can even, how that can play out. Because if time doesn't exist, technically we're in all of our incarnations simultaneously. There is no past, present, future. It's just our conscious mind thinks any lifetime I've lived before 2024, that's something that's already done and completed because it's the past. But that's really not the case when you apply the aspect of the perception of time through quantum. And that can be very challenging to understand.
Yeah, so if time doesn't exist or we are living all these lifetimes at once, one of the things I have come to understand is possibly we have soul contracts. And I've also explored the possibility of different exit points during that soul contract. So you may be in a car accident when you're a teenager. You could have died at that time, or maybe not. So that comes to mind, as part of that. And then just, yeah, how do you really just anchor down knowing all of these things are possible?
It's a good point, because if you think about all of our lifetimes going on simultaneously, and I use this analogy frequently, is the red box machine, which are being obsoleted, by the way. The old red box machines that you could go and rent a movie. So
Yes.
look at the red box machine like your soul. And all of those movies that are there that are available technically would be like all of your incarnations. So they're all there, they're all going on, but then we choose to watch one movie or one lifetime and then experience that through these physical bodies, which are just absolutely incredible machines. If you really think about what these physical bodies have the capacity to do, is in a holographic existence to be able to create and experience it more realistically than what we could ever imagine.
So let me ask you this. Me being Kristin, who, got married and had 3 children and then got divorced, and I'm living in Naples, Florida. This is a lifetime that feels like I wake up every day to this. It feels like this is my only incarnation. Yet now what I'm experiencing is just I'm floating almost and accessing different versions of me.
Yep.
Why is it? Is it just because we put our attention so much on me expecting to wake up in the bed that I see right now? And, is it the expectation, the intention? Why does it keep repeating that I'm in this lifetime so strongly?
Well, that's kind of like the movie. You know what I mean? That's the movie. It's literally the movie on the DVD that we haven't got through all chapters of it yet.
Mhm.
So we agreed to come into this existence to experience a lifetime. And it also helps because a lot of people ask the question, is life predetermined or is it free will? And the answer to, from my perception, is yes. It's yes to both. Is that we have the free will to choose to incarnate into a predetermined existence. And I know that frustrates a lot of people because people don't want to think that their life is predetermined. But if you break it down and pull back from that and understand the bigger perspective of what free will and predetermination is, if our life is predetermined, then that means no matter what you choose to do, if it happens and manifests and creates in this existence, then that's what was supposed to happen.
Okay.
And if so to me, if no matter what you choose to do, it's always going to be the best thing for you. And I don't want to use right or wrong because that brings in judgment, which is a whole different energy. So if you just know that no matter what you choose to do, if it happens, that's what's supposed to happen, then we can release this judgment of ourselves thinking that we're doing something that's right or wrong. Plus, if you have the freedom to know that no matter what you choose to do, that's exactly what's supposed to happen, why would we ever choose anything out of fear?
It really does relax me to know that and settle into maybe trusting the universe and,
Trusting yourself.
just being in the moment to
Absolutely.
experience it and not think so much about things.
Yeah. And I think what a lot of people are, I've seen this a lot in the past few years, especially with the intensity of what's going on in the collective, is it's really fascinating, is the energy of Earth is getting a very, very much higher vibration. And if you link is a whole different topic too, but Earth right now is in a 52,000 year precession where it proceeds around our central sun, 52,000 years in like a spiraling form. Mayan calendar was a 26,000 year calendar, which is fascinating to me that the Mayans could even see that. So what the Mayan calendar actually is this period of time that we're in a half, this is the central sun, and this is the band of energy that comes out, and we're spiraling around it. It takes 52,000 years. So half of that precession is 26,000 years, which is what the Mayan calendar kind of illustrated to us. But currently, we are the closest to the central sun that we're going to see in 52,000 years, which means the energy of Earth is expanding rapidly and intensely rapidly in a different way. So as the Earth expands its energy, so is our energy, which means from this third dimension 3D kind of perspective, we're navigating through that fourth experience, the fourth dimension of time, and that's where it's starting to look a little fuzzy. So to me, when we start to have loss of concepts of time and bleed throughs, I call them bleed through from other lifetimes, because whatever age you're at now, if you're alive in any of your incarnations, you're in all of them simultaneously. So there's a lot of horizontal energies, meaning energies coming in from other lifetimes at the same age or the same type of experience, versus a vertical just in one physical body and what that lifetime exists. So there's a lot of these bleed throughs, is what I kind of call them, is because the energy is expanding so rapidly that we're able to pull in experiences from other lifetimes to resolve them in this, because Earth is at the highest intensity it's going to see for a long, 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 long period of time. So it's easier to resolve these things.
What it's bringing to mind for me is as we get to know our inner technology within us and our ability to heal our bodies, I just keep feeling as though we don't need to die anymore. And perhaps it's related to the fact, I mean, think about it, if we could heal these bodies fully, why do we need to exchange out the
Yep.
body anymore? There may be still opportunities to not be a human and
Correct.
live on different planets. I think there's still going to be options. Because when you were talking, I was thinking about, okay, the 50-year-old me, could I be the 35-year-old me next year if I want to? Because technically, if that's another timeline,
Yeah.
will I just anchor into that 35-year-old woman and what she's doing someday? I mean, possibly, which also could explain why we could choose a younger body. And, and then there's the whole other concept. If you did die, and then what possibly could occur after that. I mean, my mind's going crazy with the options, but
It's so bizarre, and that's a beautiful point to make. Is that concept of healing ourselves and allowing these bodies to feel more youthful. I mean, we've seen and heard plenty of examples of people living to be in their hundreds, even in the couple hundreds, if you believe the biblical references of people 200-300 years old. So to me, ascension is what most people think about, and they talk about ascension symptoms. To me, ascension doesn't happen when we die, or else everyone would be doing it. So to me, ascension is about taking these physical bodies off of this Earth experience, the density of this 3D fear that we're experiencing on Earth. To me, Earth is hell, by the way. This is where fear resides. This is what keeps us bound to Earth, is fear. So if we are expanding our physical energetic bodies to a higher vibration that no longer can be supported by Earth, then we would leave the Earth to experience other areas within our universe while still in these physical bodies. And we have seen historically multiple experiences where there have been vanished civilizations. Machu Picchu is a big one. Roanoke Island is one of the United States, a lot where there's just the whole culture just poof gone. There's no bones, there's no burials, there's no history. They didn't migrate to other areas. Egypt was a vanished civilization. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but Egypt was a. I'm getting chills just talking about this. My affinity to Egypt. So there is Egypt is a vanished civilization as well. As after the height of their technology of what they've experienced, it's like the whole culture, millions of people just vanished. So to me, that's a reflection that ascension is possible.
Yeah, and when I said we don't die, that's viewing it from a 3D perspective. We don't die. We know that. We're spirit in a body.
Yep.
So it also is the fact that we know we already don't die. It's just what do we do with these denser bodies? Like, can we travel to other places in them still, which is what we're doing now? We're bringing the light body within
Yes.
our bodies right now and changing our DNA. It's never been done before. It's absolutely amazing. Doesn't feel so good, but
Oh.
it's something that we are testing out what these bodies are capable of. And so the timelines, coming back to timelines, it's just, a part of it.
Absolutely. And the physical body is the vehicle that we're experiencing in this holographic universe. So there is an energy to this that we do have the capacity to what we would say live forever or for much, much longer periods of time in this physical body. But it's just a matter of getting the physical body to be increasing its vibration. And there's been a lot of energy of people becoming more of what they would call light body, a higher vibration of a cell versus the density of what we're experiencing now. And the light body energy. So if you're experiencing some things to where sleep isn't the same that it used to be, it could be harder to sleep or you don't need as much sleep. And food, good Lord, food is so different for people now, not just because of what's in food, but even if you eat organic and clean and local, a lot of people are experiencing the desire that they don't need as much food as what we've been told. And to me, that's the light body. Because if you're a light body, we don't need the density of food to feed us as a fuel source. We could
You're
just
powered
do
by light.
exactly. So the sun, or whatever you want to call it, the energy of existence, whatever that underlying circuit is that's creating everything, wavelength energy. If we could just use that, that would be a higher vibrational body. So therefore, we don't need the density of food and sleep. So I think a lot of us are in this longer cocoon phase, from the old caterpillar of the human body that we thought is, which includes absolute death, at an earlier age before the age of 100 on average, versus a higher vibrational body that we can choose to leave when we want to leave.
It's wild. I mean, I feel that having lost both of my parents and just feeling more and more connected with them, like they're here. And that's what starts to happen as you just expand your awareness. These worlds merge
Yep.
and you see the bigger perspective. You're not, and the missing them is still you want the hug from the people you've lost from the 3D. But there's also this other side where you can do more amazing things with that person
Yeah. And the truth of what that person, or
in a higher
yeah,
vibration.
the
Yeah.
truth of what the soul of that person truly represented, and not just the vehicle that we chose to come into to experience, through a physical body, to allow our soul to experience that.
Yeah, there's no limitations anymore for that person that's passed away. And so you get to just meet, whether it's in the dream state or in a meditation, or even just as time goes on, it's going to be like, I'm not sure if my dogs don't see, like, I don't know what they're looking at, Fred, but like, they look at the top of my head. So I would just love to know what they see
Yeah.
as well, because they're always looking at things.
Yep. Animals are amazing with that because their ability to perceive doesn't have as many of the human programs of what we've been, oh my God, told over countless generations. It's in our DNA. We're born into this veil of not knowing what really truth is, which is also part of that process. It's more or less like a spiritual evolutionary process, that we need to, or we chose to come in here in order to experience. And animals are always amazing with that because we really don't know what their perceptions are of energy. We can just see by their actions that something is definitely, they're seeing something that we're not. just like kids do.
They do, and they're really healing, I find. I sleep with mine on the bed and I feel their energy. Not only do they need mine, but I feel they're grounding me at night. And sleep, to your point, I barely sleep, yet I don't feel tired.
Yeah.
So it is changing, and you've just got to roll with it. Again, I also know a lot of people who cannot eat the foods that they used to eat.
Oh,
They immediately get sick from
yep.
them.
Yep.
And just trusting that you're being guided, and it might not be it's good or bad. I don't like to say any food's good or bad, but for your body, that one is not resonating
Yeah.
anymore.
And your body will let you know. It always does. It always has. It's just we haven't been told of that. We see a disease or a disorder or something that's misaligned in our physical body as something that's, oh my God, what's happening? And we're not aware of it, not realizing that we're creating. There's an unconscious program in there that's imbalanced that's trying to get your attention. And if we're not hearing it, then eventually it'll become something physical in the body, because that's usually when people will stop what they're doing once their physical body is being, inhibited by something, for them to stop and take a look, which doesn't mean go to the doctor and get a pill and everything's great. That's a band-aid approach. That's only
Well,
going to,
it pushes it right back down. It's like whack-a-mole. It's just going to keep
yes,
popping up in different ways.
with a vengeance.
And how great to know that.
Oh my God.
We don't want to go get any sort of medication. We want to allow the fevers, if you have a fever, to just run its course. Of course, keep an eye on it, make sure it's not too high. But I did that with my daughter when she had pneumonia. I just kept using washcloths, and I was actually excited to know her body was detoxing something,
Absolutely.
and just embracing illness and not being afraid. It's the fear that sometimes we're not able to just stay the course and know what our higher self is trying to tell us and trust that. But we feel that we need to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah. Like we view a fever as something that's bad. But if you think about a fever from a biological perspective, your body is increasing the temperature of of its whole entire existence for a reason and a purpose. Now, if there's a virus or a bacterial infection, usually what happens is that it increases the temperature of your body to kill off the infected cells so the newer cells can come in that aren't infected. And that's the whole purpose of a fever. So when I see a fever with a person, I'm like, congratulations, because how do we not know that this fever is a catalyst to bring in a higher vibrational cell and not the old cell? It has nothing to do with a virus or a bacteria. It's almost how we are evolving and bringing in a newer, higher vibrational experience quicker than would have happened naturally. So I always see fevers and illnesses as upgrades and not, oh my God, I'm going to die from this kind of thing.
And from a health perspective, anyone listening, whatever is going on in your body is the opportunity to write whatever you want as the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked with clients and completely 180, taken the symptom, as Fred said, seen it as an absolute blessing and gift, and used it as a catalyst to make really big decisions to take that new path that we talked about and create a whole different life. And immediately they start to heal.
Yeah.
It's gone. I mean, it could be serious too, but their belief is that no, it's not my time to go. I'm ready to do things differently. They've never been more motivated, and they just stay in that and see the results, and a whole new, situation develops.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things with the predetermined life that, I want to make sure that people see the bigger picture with this is there is still some leeway within a predetermined existence that you can choose something different than what was initially written in your script. It's kind of almost like improv in a way, that we have this capacity to, well, because if I go left at this road or right here, is it going to change anything in my existence? Probably not. So we have this choice to be able to navigate within in order to play with this choosing free will kind of thing. But when you pull back, especially with diseases and things like that, you've got to realize that there's just a program in there that's trying to get your attention. And it will present itself in the form of a physical illness because that's what it's trying to get love. It wants to be balanced For us to ascend to become light bodies, we can't have imbalances and separations and divisions in our energetic field between that fear and love perspective. And we want everything to be balanced unconsciously. Therefore, when everything gets balanced unconsciously, it wouldn't be creating anything in our life to a particle, which is a reflection of an imbalance. So then we can consciously choose to create a loving experience, more love than fear. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on with illnesses. And oh my God, we could talk about a whole session just about that alone, especially with cancer. And we're seeing a lot of turbo cancers in the past 4 years. And I wonder why. I wonder if people's immune systems are being compromised or maybe altered or changed from something that was injected into the body, possibly. But the turbo cancers, we're seeing a lot of that. And it's an autoimmune issue. Our body creates cancer cells. It's not anything that should be looked at as a victim of. It's your body's last chance of trying to get your attention for something. And why was that cancer created in the first place?
For attention,
Yeah.
to be seen, to be validated. It's like an emotion that has been extremely trapped. And it's like, all right, none of my other strategies worked.
Yeah.
I'm coming full force with this one to grab your attention. And I think of my mom who, died of ovarian cancer, and there could have been a different timeline where she went a whole holistic route and believed differently and beat that, right? But
Absolutely.
that's another timeline too. It's like the timeline, the incarnation where I had a mother that died of cancer. There was another incarnation where I didn't.
Yep.
And that could be happening in the same lifetime
At the same
when
time.
you change course,
Yeah.
have the 180 change. It's like, just like that timeline didn't exist anymore.
Yep. Just like people, because when I first got into this, like almost 9 years ago, I didn't have a lot of concepts or anything about the spiritual community. I had some ideas, but it was more 5 cents. I'm just that typical male brain kind of energy. But when I started to see a lot of these interesting experiences that you're talking about, like these people that, oh, I know in another lifetime that I was Jesus or something like that. I
Right.
had 4 people in a month tell me that they were Jesus in another lifetime. And I'm like, how is that possible? But if you think of it just like a movie role, we all could come in and play the life of Jesus. It's just a movie that you're playing a character in. And to go even deeper than that, you can come back in the same physical body and incarnate multiple times to choose different experiences. I found out, I think this is like the 6th time that I've been Fred. And we know about these experiences. Like for the example that you used, like was your mom with cancer. So if you know that your mom died of cancer in this existence, but you also know, just unconsciously know that there's another lifetime where she didn't, then that obviously was a different lifetime as Kristin, to where one was mom died, the other one mom didn't. And we see this in major decision points in our life. If we would have just turned left at a light versus right, we wouldn't have met a person that became a significant partner, and then everything would have been different. So when we're presented with a major choice in our life, leave this relationship, leave this job, choose something completely different, if that other choice is available to our brain, then that means that whole pathway has to exist, which means that was a choice from another lifetime in the same physical body. You just came in the same time, same date, same birth date, whatever it would be. You just make different choices, which can create a different timeline. And we're seeing a lot of that bleed through, I call it, because the energy is getting so high, the time doesn't hold its factors that it used to anymore. And then we have these capacities to jump into life number 3 of Fred or number 2 of Kristin or whatever it would be in order to create something different.
And as we choose drastically different things, that's how we jump out of that life that maybe we no longer want. If
Yeah,
we choose one new thing every day, very quickly, your whole life is going to change.
absolutely. Choose something different. Do something different. It's the only way.
There's so much reason to choose something different. It's beautiful. It really is. And it's what could really just take you to that different timeline that you desire,
Yeah.
that you create very consciously. Because a lot of the old timelines, we were living more at the effect, and we were just listening to the media and doing what we thought we had to do out of fear. we're coming into the higher vibration of being more balanced with the love and the fear in the still point.
Yep.
And all of the options are different. It's
Yeah.
like when you wake up and you feel like you're going through a lot of apathy, which we talked about before, and you're just, life's not fun for a little bit. And then you have another week or two and everything seems amazing.
Yeah.
That's another version of these different timelines. But if you keep staying in that amazing and different choices, that that's like you're in the new earth
Yeah.
eventually.
You remember those books, the ad lib books growing up when
Yes,
we were like, if you choose this, go to page 45. If you choose this, go to
absolutely.
page 50. That's exactly what we're looking at, is all of these different potential options and choices. And what's even fascinating is now they're even making movies the same way, where you can be given a choice. Do you want the person to choose this or that? And then you'll choose this, and then it gives you an alternate ending. So when I see this being replicated in our existence, especially through what we would call technology or entertainment media, that is a deeper reflection of what the truth is in our existence and not just something on a DVD.
What would be one thing that maybe people could find comfort in if they're feeling really trapped in their life today and not liking the timeline they're in, other than making the choice? What
That's
are
it.
some options?
Um, Daydream. Think
Okay.
about things that if you can't make that physical choice to do something different because of whatever fears you have running, daydream about it.
Okay.
Get
Perfect.
into the and if you really, really want to become more powerful with that, listen to binaural beats that will put you into a dominant theta brainwave. Theta is a brainwave of creation. You know that because whenever we're in a dominant theta state as an adult, we're in a sleep state. At least that's what they tell us. We're in a sleep state, dominant theta dreams are created. So that to me is a huge biological reflection of the four main brain waves, delta, theta, alpha, beta. Theta is the brainwave of creation because look at our dream states. It's showing us the power of a theta brainwave. So if you listen to binaural beats with stereo headphones with a theta brainwave binaural beat that puts you into theta, and then you daydream of what it would be like to make a different choice and overcome that fear to see what can be experienced, you are telling your unconscious that you made that choice. It doesn't know the difference between what we would see as real or unreal because none of this is truly real. It's a holographic experience that just feels incredibly real.
And I highly recommend that you experiment with that because that visualization process, feeling the gratitude for the huge lump sum of money that just landed in your lap or the partner that just showed up and seeing the house that you're in with that person and take it as far as you want.
Yeah.
To Fred's point, your subconscious mind does not know the difference. It thinks you already have it. The more you keep doing those visualizations, you're magnetizing that life to yourself. You're jumping the timeline. And I think I enjoy it. I have a blast with the visualization. So
Right.
it's not a scary thing to do, like going out there and making some big decision. It's a great way to get there while also experiencing the still point and meditation.
Yep. And it allows the body to know what that emotion feels like to be able to choose something different instead of staying in a fearful state and just doing what you've always done. Because the way the definition of insanity, if you do the same thing, expect a different result, there's reasons why you make a different choice. You have to create a different pathway, a different experience than what you would have if you stay in that same choice process. So playing and daydreaming is a huge thing. Remember the movie The Secret or the book The Secret that came out? That was a big thing that The Secret talked about was daydream. Get into that feeling and see what it feels like to choose something that you haven't chosen or that you don't currently have. Now, the challenge that I've seen with The Secret is it didn't work for everyone.
Mhm.
Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And what I found was with that is when you visualize in your mind, of what it feels like to have something, that creates those receptors on your cells to understand what that emotion feels like. But then you also have to look at the unconscious programs, because if you don't have a program that supports or manifests or creates what you want to choose, there's no way for you to do it. View it like a language. If you don't speak Chinese, you can be around it all day long and you can't communicate through that. If you don't have a program that knows what unconditional love is, you're just going to be running programs based on love out of fear, control, abuse, abandonment, or whatever experiences you've had in your childhood. So when I looked at that, that's the reason why The Secret worked. It worked for people that had the programs but didn't understand the emotion of what it felt like to have it. So it created those receptors, and then they could head, heart, and connection could manifest and create something. If The Secret doesn't work, or if you're daydreaming and visualizing what that feeling feels like, but it's not happening, then you need to look at what your programs are, because the brain isn't able to create it, but the body can feel what that emotion is. All emotions are chemical reactions in the body.
That's beautiful clarity. It's why affirmations don't work. For instance, you say, I am rich, and your subconscious is like, no, you're not. And, you can't say it. It's not going to believe it. So you could say, I am rich all day long, but you don't have the feeling of being rich installed in your body.
Yep.
So how beautiful that you just create these feelings almost as software programs that you're putting into the hardware.
Yep.
And then it's available. As soon as you create that visualization, you can become rich or wealthy or abundant, however you want to call it.
It totally is true. It's a lot simpler than what people believe it to be. Thank God, that it's not as complicated as what we've been told or what we think. Like, in order for something to change, like you said, we have to affirm it. We have to say it 20 times a day. We have to meditate. We have to be in a mudra and oming ourselves into existence. Now, these things do have the capacity to work. But what we really want to be showing people is you have the capacity to do this on your own. You don't need something outside of you to do this. That actually creates more codependencies than it does create independent, to where you create your existence without the need of anything outside of it. And that could be a whole nother discussion too. Good
Well,
Lord.
and something really huge is for anyone that wants to be healed from an illness or a disease, you simply install that software program. You visualize every night that your cells are healing, your organs are healing, your digestive tract's healing, your vagus nerves being reset. The more that you do that, those software programs can be used and
Absolutely.
you can be healed.
Yep.
You have to do, when we say the inner work, this is the inner work. It can be fun. It doesn't have to be sitting there in meditation and being frustrated you're not hearing anything. You get to play with that and create. And it's really, I think about, especially my one daughter, she had like imaginary friends. She had the most amazing imagination. She was naturally doing it when she was young, and a lot of kids are.
Yes.
So if they're naturally doing it, it's our natural state, and it's got something we should be looking at that's powerful.
Kids to the birth to the age about 7 or 8 are in a dominant theta state when they're awake and conscious. Their brain isn't in the capacity to create alpha beta waves at that time. So kids are in that dominant theta state. That's the reason why they're able to see things. Theta is the brainwave of intuition and spirituality. It puts us in that energy of truth without the illusion of what we're experiencing in the density of this planet. So that's the reason why kids see things that we don't see.
Yeah, it's beautiful to learn from kids
Oh my
because
God.
they are tapped in. They haven't been conditioned and programmed otherwise.
Yeah, not to the extent the adult has. They already have their ingrained genetic programs and whatever they've experienced in the first few years of their life that their brain has taken on as their truth. There is a limitation to that that aspect. But what they see and experience in that dominant theta state is very different. And I can share with you, because that's what I do when I do theta healing, is I get into a dominant theta brainwave, and I'm basically the witness between the person's physical body and their soul that's converting wavelength to particle in their existence. They're doing all the energy work. I'm just a quantum witness that brings it into creation. But realize we all are already doing this unconsciously. The theta brainwave that's running behind the scenes as we're awake and conscious is what is converting our wavelength to particle and manifesting what we have in our existence. It's a powerful thing. And you can function in a dominant theta state. If you've ever been hypnotized or see hypnosis, that's what happens. It's a person gets put into a dominant theta state. Now, usually they can tend to fall asleep or become tired. But what really is going on is their brain thinks that they should be asleep, because when they're in dominant theta, they're sleeping. I'm in a dominant theta state probably most of my waking days, only because I get into theta more frequently and have for the past 9 years, to where now theta becomes my dominant brainwave when I'm awake and conscious. And I feel when I get into beta. it feels horrible to me energetically. So
I
you
do
can
too, Fred. Yeah, you
get it.
instantly know. And
Yeah,
Fred and I did a retreat together, and the entire 7 days we are in theta. And it was amazing to see what was happening, manifesting in my life during that time.
totally.
It's just amazing. In that wavy state, that hazy state, Joe Dispenza talks a lot about it to the particle. Once you observe something to be true, it becomes the particle, the tangible.
Yep.
And that is what this past week I really have been feeling like I'm in this hazy state. I'm tapping in and out of these different dimensions a lot more. I'm needing to drink more water to ground and really be conscious of grounding. So just be aware that if you have, that means maybe the vertigo a lot of people experience as a
Yeah.
symptom could be part of that. Things just to be aware of.
It's the body adjusting to a higher frequency or vibration. And if you're aware of it, then you can support it. If you're not aware of it, you like what most people will do is, I got to go to the doctor. Something's wrong with me. And the doctors don't know what the hell's going on with this because they're not going to look at it outside of the 3D world.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's really, God, it's so easy and simple, but man, it's just a matter of, working through those experiences and finding out what our unconscious programs are. So when you watch these videos of whoever's watching this, if you find yourself yawning or
Mhm.
feeling more tired or sleepy or even high is the word I hear occasionally, you have to realize that you are gravitating into a dominant theta brainwave. And if you're yawning or getting tired, your body is thinking that you should be sleeping. So I see that all the time with people, especially in sessions with people. They drop into a theta instantly. Now, if you think about this concept, you're watching a recorded video. And the energy of watching a recorded video is still dropping you into a theta state. This is allowing us to consciously see what is possible outside of the realm of what we perceive as time and space.
There is no, again, time and space because it's recorded, but it's so real for you in that moment that you're watching it. That energy is bottled and
Absolutely.
available to you. And I know when I watch certain people that just really activate me on a podcast or something, I'll fall asleep a lot of the time. And
Yeah.
if you fall asleep even in this podcast,
Okay.
it's okay. Your subconscious is going to take in what you're supposed to take in. You're falling asleep for a reason. It's getting your logical mind out of the way sometimes.
Yeah. And even just listening to this and hearing a different perception or perspective for you creates that new neural pathway that allows your brain to know that it has something else that it can choose that it didn't have before. And that is so
Mm.
powerful. And the other thing we can talk about real quick, I know we're like kind of running close to the hour, is death doors. Because good Lord, man. And this is just what I witnessed is we create an existence that we want to experience in these physical bodies. We put in different death doors at different times that if we can get to this point in our life and it's just too much for us to be able to physically handle in this body and we just can't integrate it, that we can choose to check out.
Yes.
So I guarantee you, anyone that's watching this has already passed up a death door, probably multiple ones, if not dozens of them. And you know when they happen. Near misses, near death experiences, a car almost crashes into you and it just slightly missed you. That was probably a death door option that you unconsciously chose not to take.
Beautiful, because that a lot of people are talking about there was no way this car could have missed me. And it was like it almost floated away, just picked up. Well, that was a big, obvious example. You weren't supposed to go. That would have killed you.
Yeah,
And you were alive because a timeline shifted in that moment. It was not your time to go.
yeah,
And that's where I think, the timeline shifting is going to work with the sacred contracts and how they get dismissed. It's all going to come together in our awareness of why it's all working out
yeah,
with, as we evaluate these situations that seem crazy.
totally. And just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And that's what we have to understand is when we look at where we're at in this moment, this isn't the end of this existence, or else we wouldn't be in that moment to experience that. And so just because you may not be where you think you want to be doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's just like when you watch a movie, you don't rewatch a movie and expect it to change. So this is where you have faith in knowing, as long as I'm making choices, with a heart-centered experience of I'm hopefully choosing something that's a more loving experience versus a fearful experience, it will allow these things to shift and change even differently, because this new choice creates that new neural pathway and you can bypass the old.
Yeah, and some people that I know are sharing dreams that they have where something really big happens in a dream. And they say, I don't think it was a dream. I think it really happened. But upon waking, I jumped into this different timeline, merged into a different life where it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So dreams, it's really fun to think about, are dreams really dreams? Are we just in a different brainwave and living a different version of ourselves, a different timeline? I know some of my dreams, I have all these powers that I typically don't have in everyday life. I've, flown my body in some of them, which levitating, that was pretty cool. And yeah, so the dreams merging with real life is going to happen as well.
It's like the movie Avatar, when they fall asleep or they go into that little thing and then they wake up in another avatar body. Listen, how do you not know each day you wake up that each day could be a whole life existence, and that all we do is we wake up in the morning and we're pre-programmed with all the memories of what we thought we've experienced up to that time?
Yes. And
Guess
that, I think, is what's happening. Why you keep waking up. It's like, I'm picturing those old discs we used to have. It's like, nope, pulling that one out, put this one back in, go through your day. And then at night, you have the ability to experience anything, play in all different worlds. So at some point, we're going to get really good with not putting that old disc back in.
hopefully
And we're going to live in any world we want to, which
it's
is really cool to think about. I mean, I believe anything,
totally.
infinite possibilities right now.
It's just a matter of a limitation of getting these biological bodies to that point to where they can understand that, they can believe that, and then they can create anything. But if there's an imbalance in a program, that's going to always reflect itself in what you manifest and create, because it's trying to get into balance. It's trying to get to that still point to where it can see the love and the fear in anything. And therefore, you do have a choice. But if you only have a program that thinks love is fear for some reason, abuse, control, whatever your childhood experience is, you don't have much of a choice. You can either recreate that fear again, or you can just distract yourself and choose nothing. But that's going to get louder because it wants to be balanced.
And the still point really is coming alive for me as the portal.
Yeah.
It's where you can go anywhere because you're so balanced that wherever you are in that particular day, you can travel, space travel,
Yeah. Why not?
whatever you want to call it, and experience the gratitude and abundance of whatever it is you desire to bring into your current life as reality. So I don't know if anything's coming up based on our conversation of how to bring some fun healing to this session.
What we could do is maybe just kind of make sure that anyone that watches this video, that everything that was being discussed, whether you agree with it or not, is fine. But if there's an aspect of what was discussed today that your unconscious needs in order to create more balance and allow you to really step into your truth as a creator versus a reacting to what we think is unconsciously being created, we can allow that energy to bring in. And we can also teach the body what it feels like to be safe in knowing that you have the capacity to choose something different than what you felt before without fear.
Yeah, and I'm really going to just be picturing for everyone the resetting of the vagus nerve as well as the theta brain waves, just allowing that blueprint essentially to just come back into remembrance in your body, because we're taken out of that when we're at our optimal state. All of these switches are on.
Totally.
And so bringing some of those real key ones back into balance and harmony for everyone listening.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So let's do that. Let's just kind of go quiet for a little bit. If you're watching, you feel free if you're able to. If you want to close your eyes, that's fine. If not, don't worry. It's still going to be accepted if the unconscious is willing to bring this beautiful balanced energy in for you and just to allow you to see a different perspective and for you to know that you always make the best choice for you. I always use the word best and not right. So when you want to know, make sure that you know that you always do the best thing for you and you know what that feels like. But by doing that, other people may not like that, but that's their experience. That's their perception of what it is that you're doing. So if you want clarity, choose what's best for you. You'll see in relationships how that is going to play out. And sometimes it can be incredibly supportive and loving too. Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, and I'll just add for best, whatever is for your highest peace and joy can also be used
Yes.
to, because sometimes you say highest good, well, that could mean some bad things sometimes. So I like to use that statement,
Mhm.
highest peace and joy, and sometimes I add with grace and ease and
Yes.
without a healing crisis. If you
Yeah.
really want to pull that in.
Just also realize clarity sometimes isn't going to always equal rainbows and unicorns. Sometimes we need to go through some
Absolutely.
experience to break those old patterns. So, but if if it happens, it's what's supposed to happen, and that's okay. It makes it a little bit easier to deal with and process for sure. All right, let's go.
Mhm.
How are you?
That was beautiful.
Good. Was there anything that you witnessed, or I mean, and listen, sometimes don't get caught up in the brain candy, people. You don't always have to be visually seeing things because I know that's a big thing for people thinking that they have to.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be visual at all. It could be a feeling, just the calming of your heart
Mhm.
and breathing pattern. It could be so many things. Yeah, everyone's different. It's important to note. For me, I get a lot of visuals. So what I saw was us merging with that etheric template, which essentially sits above the physical body. It is our creator blueprint. And so, our physical bodies have been through a lot in our life. When we in meditation tap back in and call in the etheric template, your creator blueprint, essentially it's like putting on a cape and
Mhm.
you can reset to that level. And that's what I saw. It's like this cape was being put on anyone that was watching this. And they felt the warmth of it and they were able to just sit in that. Now, there might be moments where you want to take that cape off and just be the human you or whatever, and that's okay too. But just know that that cape has, been brought to you and you can access that to reset almost anything.
It's interesting you saw a cape because I love how when we see different things, but they kind of like relate to the same thing. I saw like sometimes if you have a garden and you keep having weeds, you keep pulling the weeds, but the weeds keep
Yeah.
growing back. So what I saw was like this excavation process where they just like tore off like all of the top layers and they put this foundational layer down of an energy form that will block the old programs from coming up or the old weeds, just like we put plastic down or something underneath and then we put dirt and grow on top of it. So it kind of looked like it was like this deeper excavation process of let's shift out this and let's put a nice, beautiful energy layer of understanding the deeper perspectives. And then that will help prevent some of the old patterns and habits from coming back again and allow you to be able to make new choices.
I love that because it was in a sense, they're both the same thing, just different versions.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That's
kind of like
beautiful.
you hit the emotion side and I was dealing more with like the unconscious program side. I'm like, oh my God, it's like exactly what we need is that head heart into alignment is what we're seeking.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
Fred, is there anything you're excited about that you want to announce for anyone who's watching?
Oh boy. Just that I'll be heading up to Pennsylvania area next week and I'll be up there for probably about a month. I have some classes coming up on weekends, theta classes as well. And if anyone's interested in it, feel free to reach out. You can check out my webpage on Facebook. Or if you just have any questions, reach out to me. Send me a message and we can connect and talk and just see what's going on. And we'll go from there. What about you?
I am excited about some new sessions I'm offering, which focus on any particular part of the body you might be having illness or tension arising. So I will work with you to resolve that at the root cause. And one thing I just created this week is a subliminal audio track that's 8 hours, it's looped. So it is created to allow you to tap into your fountain of youth. And so there's a lot of subliminals embedded in it that are around your DNA activation, lengthening your telomeres, having clear skin, and vitality and energy. So I'm really excited about that. And then you just hear the 528 hertz music playing while you sleep. So you're not distracted by the subliminals.
I love that. That is so
It's pretty exciting because I'm going to do different ones for all different,
powerful.
clients, depending on what you need. But this is sort of one that can heal almost anything.
There you go. Beautiful. So if anyone resonates with either one of us, feel free to reach out, or if not, you can just keep watching the videos. And we're going to eventually get a YouTube channel for Stillpoint itself and have these videos up on there. So
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone.
thank you, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful weekend and we'll see you next week.
All right.